Your phone is buzzing, your inbox is overflowing, and someone is demanding an emotional reaction from you right now. This is the soundtrack of modern life, a constant low-grade panic that leaves you feeling drained and reactive. We often hear that the solution is to feel everything deeply, to be perpetually open and available. But what if the real path to peace was not about feeling more, but about feeling smarter? This is not about becoming cold or detached. This is about Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that teaches the ultimate form of empowered emotional resilience. By the end of this, you will have a complete toolkit of 25 mental frameworks to build an unshakable inner calm. We are going to explore the 25 Stoic truths that, when you internalize them, allow you to become emotionally unavailable to chaos and drama in the healthiest, most liberating way possible. What does it truly mean to be unavailable to the noise while remaining fully present for what matters? The first and most fundamental truth is a simple boundary. It is the line between your kingdom and the outside world. You cannot control external events. You can only ever control your response to them. This is the Stoic dichotomy of control, the bedrock of all emotional resilience. Think of it as the ultimate filter for your mental energy. Everything that happens, from a global crisis to a snide remark from a coworker, falls into one of two categories. Things you control and things you do not. Your own judgments, your values, your desires, your actions, these are yours to command. The weather, traffic, other people's choices, the stock market, the past, these are not. The moment you confuse the two, you invite chaos. You become emotionally available to every passing storm. A friend cancels plans at the last minute. The event, the cancellation, is outside your control. Your initial feeling of disappointment, that is natural and automatic. But here is where the Stoic makes themselves unavailable to the spiral. They do not try to control the friend's decision. They do not replay imagined slights or lecture them on responsibility. They focus solely on their own domain. They acknowledge the disappointment, then they ask, what is within my power now? Perhaps they choose to enjoy a quiet evening they did not plan for. Perhaps they use the time for a project they have neglected. The external event did not change, but their internal world remains their own. This is not passivity. It is the most active form of power because it redirects your finite energy away from futile struggles and toward meaningful action. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you become beautifully, peacefully unavailable to the emotional turbulence it generates. You are no longer a puppet whose strings are pulled by every rude comment, every bad headline, every unexpected change of plan. Your calm becomes a choice, not a condition dependent on the world's cooperation. That initial disappointment you feel is a raw, unfiltered signal, but what happens next is entirely up to you. This leads us to the second Stoic truth, the powerful engine behind your emotional resilience. It is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. Every single emotional reaction you have, from mild irritation to deep sorrow, is filtered through a lens of your own making. Your perception, not the thing itself, shapes your reality. To become emotionally unavailable to unnecessary suffering is to become the master of that lens. Consider a piece of criticism from a boss. One person hears it and their internal narrative screams, "I am a failure, they hate me, my career is over." Their entire day is ruined, their confidence shattered. Another person hears the exact same words. Their internal narrative asks, is there a useful piece of feedback here I can use to improve, or is this simply their personal preference? They feel a brief sting, then they move on with their composure intact. The external event was identical. The emotional outcomes were worlds apart. The difference was entirely in the judgment, the story they told themselves about what those words meant. Stoicism teaches us to practice cognitive distancing. This is the simple, profound act of stepping back from your initial, automatic judgment to examine it rationally. It is the pause between the stimulus and your response. When you feel that surge of anger or that wave of anxiety, you learn to say, "Wait, I am having the thought that this situation is catastrophic. Is that actually true, or is it just one possible interpretation?" You create space between the event and your reaction, and in that space lies your freedom. You are no longer a slave to your first impression. You become unavailable to the tyranny of unexamined thoughts. This is not about suppressing emotion, but about interrogating it. By questioning the narratives you habitually tell yourself, you disarm the power of external events to dictate your inner state. Your calm becomes a chosen fortress, built not on ignorance of the world, but on a disciplined understanding of your own mind. That pause, that space you create, is where you make a monumental choice. You can fight reality, or you can embrace it. This is the third Stoic truth, a concept so powerful it echoes through the ages: ama fati. It is a Latin phrase that means love of your fate. It is the radical acceptance of everything that happens to you, not with passive resignation, but with active, fierce appreciation. To love your fate is to make yourself utterly unavailable to the twin poisons of self-pity and regret. It is the decision to see every obstacle, every setback, and every piece of so-called bad luck as a necessary ingredient in the person you are becoming. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire plagued by war and plague, did not write in his private journal about how unfair his life was. He constantly reminded himself to embrace the task before him. He saw the burdens of leadership not as a curse, but as the very material he was given to practice virtue. The barbarian invasions, the betrayals, the immense pressure, he accepted it all as his fate to be loved because it was his arena for courage and wisdom. In a modern context, think of a project you poured your heart into that ultimately failed. The conventional, emotionally available response is to drown in regret. "I wasted all that time, I look foolish, I should have known better." The ama fati response is entirely different. You look at that failure and you say, "This was necessary. It taught me precisely what my assumptions were wrong. It showed me where my preparation was lacking. It forced me to develop resilience I did not know I had." That failed project is not a mark against you. It is essential feedback, a crucial chapter in your story of growth. This is not about pretending hardships feel good. It is about recognizing that the most difficult parts of your life are often the ones that forge your strength and depth. When you learn to love your fate, you stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance. You become the author of your response, finding meaning and opportunity even in the rubble. You become emotionally unavailable to the draining narrative of "why me?" and instead adopt the empowering question of "what now, and what can this make of me?" Your life in its entirety becomes your curriculum. That curriculum is not meant to be easy. The most challenging lessons are not presented in a quiet library, but in the middle of a storm. This is where the fourth Stoic truth transforms theory into unshakable practice. The obstacle is the way. While ama fati is about accepting your fate with love, this truth is about the love of the fight itself. It is the active principle that makes you emotionally unavailable to frustration and victimhood by turning every single problem into your personal training ground. An obstacle is not a sign that the universe is against you. It is the universe presenting you with the exact raw material you need to grow stronger, wiser, and more capable. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius faced constant political betrayal and military threats. He did not see these as personal attacks meant to break him. He saw them as the very arena in which to practice the virtues of leadership, patience, and justice. The obstacle, the betrayal itself, became the way to demonstrate his character. In your own life, this might look like a sudden budget cut on a project you are passionate about. The emotionally available response is to feel targeted, to complain about unfairness, to give up in frustration. You become a victim of the circumstance. The Stoic response, guided by the obstacle is the way, follows a powerful three-step process. First, you identify the core obstacle with clear-eyed honesty. Not the story around it, but the factual, immovable thing in your path. The budget was cut by 50%. Second, and this is the crucial pivot, you reframe that obstacle as a specific opportunity. You ask, how does this problem force me to be more creative, more efficient, or more collaborative than I ever would have been with unlimited resources? The budget cut is not a stop sign, it is a challenge to innovate. Finally, you take disciplined, focused action on that new path. You brainstorm leaner solutions, you seek out alternative partnerships, you strip the project down to its most essential, powerful core. Your energy, which could have been wasted on frustration, is now channeled entirely into creative solution building. You have made yourself unavailable to the emotional drain of the problem and wholly available to the power of your own response. The obstacle did not move, but you moved through it, and in doing so, you became someone who cannot be stopped by mere difficulty. Your path forward is literally built from the very thing that seemed to block it. Building your path through obstacles requires a certain kind of courage, a willingness to look difficulty directly in the eye. But what about the fears we cannot yet see, the potential disasters that haunt the quiet moments before sleep? This is where the fifth Stoic truth offers a surprising and profoundly stabilizing practice. It is called premeditatio malorum, which translates to the premeditation of evils. At first glance, this sounds like a recipe for anxiety, a dark obsession with everything that could go wrong. In reality, it is the exact opposite. It is a deliberate, controlled exercise in emotional vaccination. By mentally rehearsing potential losses, you inoculate yourself against the paralyzing shock and despair if they ever actually occur. This practice makes you beautifully unavailable to sudden devastation and the free-floating anxiety that clings to an uncertain future. Imagine you are about to give a major presentation. The emotionally available mind might try to calm its nerves by repeating, "Everything will be fine, just don't think about it." This often backfires because the fear of failure is still lurking, unexamined and powerful. The Stoic practicing premeditatio malorum takes a different route. They sit quietly and they deliberately consider the worst-case scenario, not with panic but with calm analysis. They think, what is the worst that could reasonably happen? I could stumble over my words, the projector could fail, someone could ask a question I cannot answer. Then they go further. They visualize not just the event but their own ideal response. If the projector fails, I will have printed notes to refer to. If I blank on a point, I will pause, take a breath, and refer back to the central thesis. If I cannot answer a question, I will honestly say, that is an excellent point I need to consider further, and I will follow up. By walking through this mental rehearsal, something remarkable happens. The monster under the bed loses its power. The potential misfortune is no longer a vague, terrifying specter. It is a specific scenario for which you already have a plan. This is not pessimism. A pessimist believes the worst will happen and feels helpless. A Stoic practicing this exercise acknowledges that bad things can happen and then builds inner fortitude to meet them with composure. You are not attracting misfortune, you are draining it of its emotional terror. You apply this to bigger things as well. You might contemplate the temporary loss of a job, a shift in an important relationship, or even the reality of your own mortality. The goal is never to dwell in misery, but to arrive at a single, liberating realization. If this happened, I would find a way through, I would adapt. I would endure. This practice fosters a profound sense of preparedness that has nothing to do with stockpiling supplies and everything to do with stockpiling inner resilience. When you have already faced your fears in the safe theater of your mind, you become unavailable to their surprise attack in real life. Your stability is no longer contingent on everything going right. It is built on the quiet confidence that you can handle things if they go wrong. That quiet confidence in facing adversity is only possible when you know what you are fighting for. This brings us to the sixth Stoic truth, a concept that sharpens every decision you will ever make. Your time and attention are not just commodities, they are the very substance of your life, and they are vanishingly finite. The Stoics had a powerful practice to keep this truth at the forefront of the mind: memento mori. Remember, you must die. This is not a morbid fixation, but a life-giving clarity. The emotional unavailability it fosters is not a cold withdrawal, but a passionate, focused commitment. When you deeply internalize that your days are numbered, you become instantly and powerfully unavailable to trivial pursuits, draining people, and meaningless drama. You stop asking, "Is this fun?" or "Does this feel good in the moment?" and you start asking the only question that matters: "Is this worthy of a piece of my life?" A Stoic does not avoid difficult conversations or challenging work because they are emotionally closed off. They embrace them if they align with virtue and purpose. They become unavailable to the thousand petty distractions precisely because they are too busy investing their limited time in what truly builds a meaningful life. Think of your attention as a spotlight. In a world of digital noise, that spotlight is constantly being hijacked. A notification pulls it toward social media drama. An endless news cycle swings it toward outrage. A gossipy coworker tries to borrow it for a story that serves no purpose. When you remember memento mori, you take firm control of that spotlight. You ask, "On my last day, will I look back and wish I had spent more hours scrolling through comments, or more hours building something, connecting deeply with someone I love, or learning something that expanded my mind?" The answer is obvious, and it makes your choices equally clear. You become unavailable to the digital dopamine hits that steal your hours because you are guarding minutes of a life that will not come again. This is why Stoics could appear emotionally detached from popular opinion or fleeting trends. It was not a lack of feeling, but a supreme valuation of their focus. They were emotionally invested, but only in the arenas they chose, the virtues they cultivated, the projects that mattered. Your mortality is not a threat, it is the ultimate editor. It cuts the filler from your story and leaves only the essential plot. When you live with this awareness, you stop loaning your precious attention to things that do not deserve it. You say no not from a place of lack, but from a place of profound abundance, because you are too busy saying yes to the few things that constitute a life well lived. That spotlight of your attention, fiercely guarded by the awareness of time, will inevitably be judged by others. But here is a truth that builds an emotional fortress so strong, no opinion can breach its walls. The seventh Stoic truth declares that other people's opinions are categorically beyond your concern. This is not a suggestion to be rude or dismissive, but a radical application of the dichotomy of control to the fragile currency of reputation. Your actions and your character lie within your sphere. The thoughts, judgments, and whispers of others exist firmly outside of it. To tie your inner peace to the shifting winds of external approval is to hand over the keys to your own stability. The Stoic teacher Epictetus put it with devastating clarity. He said, "If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, 'He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone.'" This is not a joke, it is a masterclass in emotional unavailability. When you hear gossip or criticism, the default, emotionally available reaction is to defend, explain, or worse, to internalize the critique and let it rewrite your own self-image. You scramble to control something you can never control, another person's private judgment. Epictetus flips the entire script. He accepts the criticism as a given, and then he humorously amplifies it. The implied message is profound. You do not know me well enough to truly hurt me with your limited observation. My own self-awareness is far more thorough and demanding than your critique could ever be. This mindset makes you utterly unavailable to the exhausting pursuit of validation and the corrosive sting of gossip. Think of a time you shared an idea, perhaps a creative project or a proposal at work, and someone dismissed it with a casual, unkind remark. The emotionally available path is to replay that moment for days, to seek reassurance from others, to dilute your next idea in hopes of avoiding further criticism. You become a servant to an opinion you did not choose. The Stoic path, guided by this truth, is to perform a simple internal audit. Was my action aligned with my values and done to the best of my ability? If the answer is yes, then the opinion is registered as external data, like a weather report. It might be raining opinions today, but that does not mean you failed to build a solid house. You can acknowledge the feedback, see if there is any useful grain of truth to extract for your own growth, and then you let the rest fall away because it belongs to the other person, not to you. This builds a quiet, unshakable confidence. You stop posting online for likes and start creating for purpose. You stop dressing for trends and start dressing for comfort and self-expression. You stop molding your personality to fit into every room and start entering rooms as your complete self, understanding that some will approve and some will not, and that both outcomes are equally irrelevant to your core mission. Your emotional energy is no longer siphoned away by the imaginary committee in your head. You become the sole author of your worth, and in that authorship, you find a freedom so profound that praise feels nice but unnecessary, and criticism feels informative but never definitive. The fortress is complete, and the gate only opens from the inside. That fortress of self-worth is built on a foundation of your own actions, not the reactions of others. This brings us to a truth that defines your relationship with the world beyond your walls. Justice is a virtue you uphold, not an outcome you demand. For the Stoics, justice was one of the four cardinal virtues alongside wisdom, courage, and temperance, but their definition was deeply personal and active. Justice meant treating every person you encounter with fairness, integrity, and a recognition of their shared humanity. It is your duty to act justly in your own sphere, in every transaction, every conversation, every decision. Where the emotional trap lies is in the next step, in the silent contract we all tend to write. We believe that if we are just, the world will be just to us in return. We expect fairness as a reward for our own good behavior, and when that reward does not come, when we are cheated, lied to, or treated unfairly despite our best efforts, the emotional fallout is devastating. Bitterness sets in, cynicism hardens the heart. We feel betrayed not just by a person, but by the very principle we tried to live by. This is where Stoicism asks you to make a profound, liberating separation. You must decouple your virtuous action from your expectation of a specific result. Acting with justice is its own reward because it fortifies your character. It is the right thing to do, full stop. Whether the other person reciprocates, whether the system acknowledges it, whether you ever see a fair outcome, is entirely outside your control. To become emotionally unavailable to bitterness is to commit to justice as a personal practice, not a cosmic bargain. Imagine you are working on a team project. You do your part with diligence and honesty. You credit others for their work. You speak fairly about colleagues. Then, a teammate takes credit for your idea in a meeting with leadership. The emotionally available and utterly draining response is to spiral into outrage. I was fair, so this is unfair. The world is corrupt. I will never trust anyone again. Your energy is consumed by the injustice of the outcome. The Stoic, committed to this eighth truth, experiences the same event differently. They feel the initial sting of the betrayal, certainly. But their emotional commitment is to their own continued virtue, not to controlling the other person's lack of it. They ask, what does acting justly look like now? It might mean calmly and privately clarifying the record with their supervisor, not to punish the teammate, but to uphold the truth. It might mean setting clearer boundaries with that person in future collaborations. The focus remains on their own actions within their control. They have detached from the exhausting demand that the universe balance its scales in their favor. They understand that the other person's injustice is a reflection of their character, not a negation of your own. This practice protects your soul. It prevents you from becoming the cynical person who says, "Why should I be good if no one else is?" Your goodness is not a currency to be spent. It is the bedrock of who you are. You can look at profound societal injustices with clear eyes, work against them with courage, and yet not be emotionally shattered when progress is slow or setbacks occur. You fight the good fight because it is right, not because you are guaranteed to win. Your inner peace is no longer held hostage by the unfairness of the world. You become a calm just center in an unjust storm, not by ignoring the storm, but by knowing that your integrity is the one thing the storm can never take from you. Integrity in an unjust world requires a certain kind of inner wealth, a richness that cannot be diminished by external circumstances. This brings us to the ninth Stoic truth, a principle that severs the root of countless modern anxieties. Desire less and you will always have enough. This is not a call for poverty or self-denial for its own sake. It is the practice of voluntary discomfort, a deliberate training of your desires to ensure they serve you, not master you. By consciously choosing to want less, fewer luxuries, less frantic social approval, simpler and more immediate pleasures, you make yourself emotionally unavailable to the twin specters of envy and perpetual lack. You inoculate yourself against the advertising-driven narrative that your happiness is always one more purchase, one more achievement, one more like away. The Roman philosopher Seneca, a man of immense wealth, was perhaps the most vocal advocate for this practice. He did not preach from a position of lack, but from one of dangerous abundance. He knew firsthand how easily comfort could become a cage, how the fear of losing what you have can create more suffering than never having it at all. He would regularly practice what he called a poverty meal, eating only coarse bread and drinking plain water, and he would sleep on a hard bed. Why? He explained it was to remind himself that a happy life is possible even without his fine linens and elaborate feasts. He was not punishing himself, he was proving a point to his own psyche. He was showing his desires who was in charge. The goal is to distinguish between preferring nicer things and being enslaved by the need for them. It is perfectly Stoic to prefer a comfortable home, a reliable car, or a delicious meal. These are what the Stoics called preferred indifference, things that have value but are not essential to virtue or happiness. The trap and the source of emotional turmoil is when that preference hardens into a demand, when you believe you cannot be okay, cannot be happy, cannot be at peace unless you have that specific thing. That is when you have handed over your emotional stability to an object or a circumstance outside your control. Modern life constantly blurs this line. You might prefer a quiet evening but feel enslaved by the need to check work email to avoid anxiety. You might prefer financial security but feel enslaved by a job you hate because you cannot imagine life with a smaller paycheck. The practice of desiring less is the act of cutting those chains of enslavement. It is the weekend digital detox that proves your peace does not depend on notifications. It is the conscious decision to wear an old, comfortable outfit to a fancy event to prove your confidence is not sourced from a label. Each time you voluntarily step away from a comfort, you are doing a rep for your emotional resilience. You are building the muscle that says, "I am okay, even when I do not have that." This makes you unavailable to the hollow ache of envy. When you see a neighbor with a newer car, you are not gripped by a sense of lack because you have already tested your own contentment against having less. You can admire the car without needing it. Your sense of enoughness becomes internally generated, a quiet satisfaction with what you have and who you are right now. This is the ultimate freedom, the freedom from want. Your happiness is no longer a hostage negotiation with the universe. It is a settled fact, independent of your external possessions, leaving you calm, grateful, and remarkably difficult to manipulate with promises of more. That internal wealth of contentment creates a profound stillness within. But in that stillness, you may notice a constant stream of activity. Thoughts race by, emotions surge and fade, and it is easy to mistake this noisy traffic for who you are. This leads to the 10th Stoic truth, a liberating declaration of identity. You are not your thoughts or feelings, you are the observer behind them. The Stoics called this core self your hegemonikon, your guiding principle or inner citadel. It is the silent, aware space within that can watch a storm of anger pass through without becoming the storm itself. Mastering this distinction is what makes you truly unavailable to being hijacked by every passing mood or intrusive thought. Think of your mind as a clear sky. Thoughts and feelings are the clouds. Some are light and fluffy, some are dark and threatening. The emotionally available, untrained mind looks up and says, "I am a storm cloud." It identifies completely with the passing weather, believing the temporary condition defines its entire being. A bad mood means I am a miserable person. An anxious thought means I am a nervous wreck. This identification is the source of so much suffering. The Stoic, understanding this 10th truth, looks at the same sky and says, "There is a storm cloud passing through my sky." The cloud is there, it is real, but I am the sky, vast and unchanging, capable of holding the cloud without becoming it. This is not a metaphor for suppression. It is a practice of conscious separation. When a wave of jealousy hits you after seeing a friend's success, the default reaction is to become the jealousy. You might act out, make a snide remark, or retreat into sullen silence. You have been hijacked. The Stoic practice is to notice the feeling the moment it arises. There is jealousy, you name it. You acknowledge its presence without judgment, as you might note that it has started to rain. This simple act of observation creates critical distance. The jealousy is happening, but you are not the jealousy. You are the one noticing it. From that place of observation, you regain your power to choose. You can ask, what is this jealousy trying to tell me? Perhaps it points to an unfulfilled ambition of my own. And then you can decide on a response aligned with your values, like feeling genuine happiness for your friend and then setting a goal for yourself. This practice applies perfectly to the modern plague of rumination and anxiety. A worried thought about tomorrow's meeting loops in your mind. Instead of wrestling with it, trying to shove it away, which only gives it more power, you simply note there is a thought about the meeting. You see it as a mental event, not a command or a prophecy. You watch it come and you watch it go without buying the story it is selling. This is the essence of emotional unavailability in the healthiest sense. You are not shutting down feeling. You are becoming so intimately acquainted with your inner landscape that no single weather system can claim to be the whole territory. Your inner citadel remains undisturbed. The clouds may gather, the winds may howl, but you, the observer, are safe inside, calm and clear, choosing how to respond to the world outside your walls. From the quiet observation within your inner citadel, a natural question arises. If I am not my turbulent thoughts, then what should I give voice to? The answer is found in the 11th Stoic truth, a principle that transforms communication from a source of drama into a pillar of strength. Speak only what is necessary and true. This is the virtue of Stoic speech, and it is your primary tool for becoming emotionally unavailable to the exhausting cycles of gossip, complaint, and unnecessary conflict. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius directed this discipline inward with a simple command: let no act be done without a purpose. Apply this to your words, and you begin to see every sentence as a deliberate action carrying weight and consequence. When you speak, it should pass 3 silent gates. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Gossip, by its very nature, fails this test. It may contain a sliver of truth, but it is rarely necessary and almost never kind. It is an emotional transaction where people trade pieces of others' reputations to feel a temporary sense of connection or superiority. By choosing silence over participating in gossip, you make yourself unavailable to that entire economy. You conserve immense emotional energy otherwise spent on rehearsing stories, managing side conversations, and dealing with the inevitable fallout of mistrust. Complaining is another leak in your emotional reservoir. There is a vast difference between identifying a problem to solve and indulging in repetitive lament. Stoic speech distinguishes sharply between the two. Venting about a traffic jam for 20 minutes to a friend serves no purpose. The event is over, it was outside your control, and rehashing it only reinforces your sense of victimhood. A necessary and true statement might be, "The traffic was heavy today, so I will leave 15 minutes earlier tomorrow." The first drains you and your listener. The second is a brief, factual observation followed by a purposeful action within your control. This discipline extends to conflict. So many arguments escalate not because of the core issue, but because of unnecessary, unkind, or untruthful words hurled in the heat of the moment. The Stoic aims to speak with brevity and honesty, even when it is difficult. This does not mean being blunt or cruel. Kindness is part of the necessity. Sometimes the necessary and true thing is to say nothing at all until emotions have settled and clarity returns. Imagine a colleague takes credit for your work. The emotionally available, undisciplined response might be a public confrontation filled with accusations and dramatic language. This creates a huge emotional scene that drains everyone involved. The Stoic, committed to necessary and true speech, would likely request a private moment. They would state the fact simply. "I noticed that in the presentation, the concept from my Tuesday report was presented as yours. I would like to ensure credit is aligned moving forward." This statement is true. It is necessary to correct the record and set a boundary. It can be delivered with a calm, non-accusatory tone that is a form of kindness, giving the other person a path to correct course without public shame. The power of this truth is cumulative. Each time you filter your speech through these gates, you strengthen your emotional resilience. You stop generating your own internal storms with careless words. You build a reputation as someone reliable and trustworthy because people learn your words have weight. You are not swayed by the impulse to contribute to every complaint session or share every piece of juicy news. Your silence becomes a source of strength, and your speech, when it comes, carries the quiet authority of someone who thinks before they speak. You become a calm harbor in a world of noisy, reactive conversation, emotionally unavailable to the chaos that so many words create. The power of your speech lies in what you choose to give voice to, but the power of your peace often lies in what you choose to see. Zoom out, far out. This is the 12th Stoic truth, a breathtaking mental exercise known as the view from above. It is the ultimate tool for gaining perspective, a deliberate shift in consciousness that makes you emotionally unavailable to the suffocating gravity of your own immediate dramas. The practice is simple in description, profound in effect. You consciously pull your awareness back from your current worry, your current conflict, your current feeling of lack. You first see yourself in the room, then the building, then the city from above. You keep going, seeing the continent, the planet, a blue marble hanging in the black void of space. You consider the sweep of human history, the billions of lives lived before yours, the empires that rose and fell, all believing their moment was the most important. You think of the lifespan of the Earth itself, millions of years in the past and future, and in this vast context you locate your current problem. That rude email from a client, that awkward social interaction, that financial stress you are carrying, where does it sit on this cosmic scale? It shrinks not into nothingness but into its proper proportion. This is not about dismissing your human experience as meaningless. It is about refusing to let a pebble in your shoe convince you the entire journey is ruined. The view from above fosters a deep and humbling sense of connectedness. You realize you are a brief, conscious flicker in an unimaginably long story, a single thread in a vast human tapestry. That person who slighted you is another flicker, another thread. Your conflict is not a world-ending event. It is a momentary intersection of two paths in an endless web. This realization drains the personal venom from so many situations. A colleague speaks to you with unwarranted sharpness. From ground level, this feels like a targeted attack, a crisis of respect that demands an immediate emotional counterattack. Your heart races, your face flushes, but from the cosmic perspective, you see a tired human being, likely carrying stresses you know nothing about, acting out of their own pain or fear. Their behavior says everything about their inner weather and almost nothing about your worth. You can respond or not respond from a place of calm clarity, not reactive heat. You become unavailable to taking things personally because you see the immense, impersonal forces of time, chance, and human nature at play. The deadline you are stressing over, the social event you are anxious about, the material thing you are desperate to acquire, when held against the backdrop of mountains being worn to dust by wind and rivers carving canyons over millennia, it simply cannot maintain its terrifying size. This practice builds a serene humility. It is the antidote to the modern curse of self-importance, where every minor inconvenience feels like a plot against you. Your life is both precious and passing, significant in its own right, yet a tiny part of a grand whole. Holding both truths allows you to engage fully without being consumed. You care, but you are not crushed. You act, but you are not attached. You live your life with passion while quietly understanding that from a point 1,000 miles above and 1,000 years from now, the lines you are so carefully drawing today are but a faint, beautiful pattern in the sand, soon to be washed clean by the tide of time. This perspective does not diminish your life, it liberates it from the weight of false importance. The cosmic view reveals a simple, humbling fact. Every single person you meet is navigating their own private storm. This is the 13th Stoic truth, a principle of radical empathy that protects your inner peace like nothing else. Assume ignorance, not malice. When someone acts poorly, speaks harshly, or treats you unfairly, the Stoic default is to believe they are misguided, afraid, or simply unaware, not that they are intentionally evil. This single shift in interpretation makes you profoundly unavailable to taking things personally and to the soul-draining energy of hatred. It transforms potential conflicts into puzzles of human error, allowing you to respond with calm correction or dignified removal rather than reactive fury. Think of the last time someone cut you off in traffic. The immediate, emotionally available narrative is one of personal attack. That jerk did that to me. He is selfish, reckless, and deserves my anger. Your body floods with adrenaline, your mood sours, and you carry that agitation into your next interaction. The Stoic, guided by this truth, creates a different story. That driver is not a villain targeting you. He is a human being who is likely late, distracted by a personal worry, or simply failed to check his blind spot. He acted out of ignorance or preoccupation, not out of a desire to ruin your morning. This is not about making excuses for bad behavior. It is about accurately diagnosing its source so you can choose an effective, emotionally conservative response. If you assume malice, you are compelled to fight, to punish, to engage in a battle of wills. You become emotionally entangled in a stranger's poor judgment. If you assume ignorance, your options open up. You can simply let it go, recognizing his action as a mistake, not a declaration of war. You can, if safety requires it, respond with a calm corrective action, like a brief honk to alert him, but without the accompanying rage. Your emotional energy remains your own. Apply this to more personal wounds. A friend forgets an important date. A coworker delivers criticism in a harsh tone. The easy story is malice. They do not care about me. They are trying to undermine me. That story invites you into a vortex of resentment and plotting. The Stoic story asks what ignorance might be at play. Your friend is overwhelmed with a family crisis she has not shared. Your coworker is under immense pressure from a boss and lacks the social skill to deliver feedback gracefully. Again, this does not mean you accept disrespect. It means you first seek the most likely, least personal explanation. This allows you to respond from a place of strength, not wounded reactivity. You might ask your friend if everything is okay, opening a door for connection instead of slamming one in anger. You might address your coworker by saying, "I want to discuss your feedback," but the tone felt dismissive. Can we talk about the content directly? You address the behavior without assassinating the person's character. By refusing to assume the worst about others, you disarm the hidden bombs they may have left in your path without even knowing it. You become unavailable to the corrosive poison of hatred because hatred requires a villain, and you have stopped seeing villains everywhere. You see confused, struggling people instead. This does not make you a pushover, it makes you a strategist of peace. You conserve all the energy others spend on outrage and redirect it toward your own purpose. You can walk away from toxic situations not with a burning sense of victimhood, but with the quiet understanding that some people are too lost in their own battles to see clearly, and it is not your job to fight in the dark alongside them. Your calm becomes a sanctuary built on the sturdy foundation of a generous interpretation of a difficult world. That generous interpretation of the world is a gift you give yourself, but it must be actively protected. Your peace is not a suggestion, it is a non-negotiable condition for a life of virtue. This 14th Stoic truth asks you to become the unwavering guardian of your inner citadel, that quiet space of clarity we touched on earlier. Think of it as your psychological home, the one place in the universe you have absolute sovereignty over. Every previous truth we have explored, from the dichotomy of control to assuming ignorance, serves as a brick in its walls. But building a fortress is pointless if you leave the gate wide open to every passing troublemaker. Stoic emotional unavailability is the conscious, daily practice of standing sentry at your own gate. It means establishing firm, non-negotiable boundaries not out of fear or hostility, but out of a profound respect for the sanctuary within. You calmly, politely, and consistently refuse to engage in debates, dramas, or draining situations that you know from experience will breach your walls without a truly worthy cause. This is not about being rude or shutting people out. It is about discerning the difference between a meaningful challenge and mere noise. A meaningful challenge might be a difficult conversation with a loved one that aims for resolution. It is worthy because it protects or deepens a true connection. Mere noise is the circular political argument on social media with a stranger who only seeks to win, not understand. It is the gossip session that leaves you feeling sour. It is the colleague who constantly unloads their chaotic personal problems onto you but never seeks solutions. Engaging with noise is like inviting a storm into your living room and then being surprised when your furniture gets wet. The Stoic guardian recognizes the storm for what it is and simply closes the window. Your boundary is the closed window. How does this look in practice? It is the ability to say with genuine calm, "I do not wish to discuss this topic," when someone tries to pull you into a heated, unproductive debate. It is the power to end a phone call with a chronically negative friend by saying, "I hear you are having a tough time, but I do not have the capacity for this conversation right now." It is the choice to log off a platform when you feel the pull of outrage bait, recognizing that your attention is the price of admission and you are not paying it today. These actions are not rejections of other people, they are affirmations of your own peace. You are declaring through your actions that your inner stability is too valuable to be used as collateral in someone else's conflict. Marcus Aurelius, while leading wars and managing a palace full of intrigue, constantly reminded himself to retreat into his own mind. He wrote that you could retreat there anytime and find peace. But that retreat only works if you have actively defended the space. You cannot find quiet in a room where you have allowed everyone to shout. Guarding your citadel requires preemptive decisions. You might choose not to watch certain sensationalist news programs before bed, because you know they will plant seeds of anxiety that disturb your rest. You might decline invitations to events filled with people who thrive on drama. You are not judging them, you are simply choosing a different environment for your soul. This protective stance makes you appear emotionally unavailable to chaos, and that is precisely the point. You are unavailable for rent to every passing disturbance. Your peace is off the market. The beautiful result is that when you do choose to engage, when you open the gate for a cause that matters, you do so from a place of fullness, not depletion. Your compassion, your logic, your courage, they are all fully charged and ready, because you have not wasted them on skirmishes that never deserved your energy in the first place. Your inner citadel stands quiet and strong, a testament to the fact that the most powerful form of control is deciding what you will no longer allow to control you. Guarding your citadel requires more than just saying no to external noise. It demands a specific kind of internal discipline, a commitment to action that overrides the ever-shifting weather of your feelings. This is the 15th Stoic truth. Your deeds define you, not your passions. In a world that constantly urges you to follow your heart and find your passion, this Stoic stance might seem cold, almost alien. But it is one of the most liberating and empowering principles you can adopt. The Stoics did not dismiss feeling, they simply refused to let it sit in the driver's seat. They understood that passion, in its original sense of intense, overwhelming emotion, is a fickle and unreliable compass. It burns brightly one moment and leaves you in the dark the next. Basing your life's direction on something so temporary is like building your house on a tide line. Virtue, for the Stoic, is not a feeling of goodness. It is the consistent practice of goodness through right action, regardless of how you feel in the moment. This truth makes you beautifully, powerfully unavailable to the most common excuse in the human arsenal. I just do not feel like it. Your commitment to your principles, your duties, and your word becomes the engine, and your fluctuating emotions are merely passengers along for the ride. Think about the modern obsession with passion as a prerequisite for work. How many people stay stuck in unfulfilling jobs or never start a meaningful project because they are waiting to feel a bolt of inspirational lightning? They believe they must be emotionally fired up every single morning to do valuable work. The Stoic approach flips this entirely. You do not need to feel passionate about filing your taxes, but you do it because it is your responsibility. You do not need to feel excited about a difficult conversation with an employee, but you have it because it is your duty as a leader. You do not need to feel motivated to go for a run on a cold, rainy morning, but you go because you committed to your health. In each case, you perform the right action first, and often the feeling of satisfaction, of pride, of even passion follows the action. It is a reward for your discipline, not its prerequisite. This builds a rock-solid character. People come to rely on you not because you are always enthusiastic, but because you are always dependable. Your word becomes bond, not because you felt like keeping it that day, but because you honor your commitments as a matter of principle. This reliability breeds immense self-respect. You look at yourself in the mirror and see someone who can be trusted, especially by yourself. You are no longer a mystery to you, governed by whims. You become predictable in the best way, a force of calm, consistent action in a world of chaotic emotion. Imagine you promised a friend you would help them move on a Saturday. When the day arrives, you are tired, you have a headache, and you would much rather stay in. The emotionally available, passion-driven response is to cancel or to show up with a resentful attitude that poisons the entire day. Your mood becomes the justification for breaking your word. The Stoic, guided by this truth, acknowledges the feelings. I feel tired, I have a headache. I would prefer to rest, and then they tie their shoes and go help their friend. They do not need to manufacture fake enthusiasm. They can be quiet, even a bit slow, but they are there doing what they said they would do. The action itself, the keeping of the promise, is the virtue. The feeling is irrelevant. Over time, this practice rewires your relationship with discomfort. You stop seeing a lack of motivation as a stop sign. You see it as a signal that this is exactly the moment your character is being built. You become emotionally unavailable to your own excuses. Your inner critic, who loves to say you are not in the right mood, simply loses its audience. You are too busy doing the work, honoring your word, and building a life of integrity, one right action at a time, whether you feel like it or not. That unwavering commitment to right action shapes the person you become, but for what purpose? The 16th Stoic truth asks you to hold that purpose against the ultimate deadline. Death is not to be feared, but prepared for. We touched on memento mori earlier as a tool for time management, but its power runs far deeper. It is not a morbid countdown, but a constant, gentle awareness of your finitude that becomes the ultimate tool for emotional prioritization. When you truly internalize that your time is not just limited but vanishingly brief, a profound filter clicks into place over your entire life. This awareness makes you gloriously unavailable to the petty fears that so often govern our days, the fear of embarrassment, of failure, of social rejection. Held against the solemn backdrop of your own mortality, these anxieties shrink to their proper size, revealing themselves as trivial concerns of a temporary self. Why would you waste a single hour of your precious, singular life worrying what a stranger thinks of your outfit, or hesitating to speak your truth in a meeting for fear of sounding foolish, or avoiding a creative pursuit because you might not be perfect at it? These fears are ghosts, and the light that banishes them is the simple, sobering fact that you and everyone judging you will one day be gone. This realization does not lead to nihilism, but to a fierce and urgent clarity. It instills the courage to live authentically. If this were your last year, your last month, your last week, would you really spend it polishing your image on social media, or would you call the friend you have been meaning to reconnect with? Would you stay in the job that pays well but drains your soul, or would you take the first real step toward the work that feels like a calling? Memento mori forces these questions not as a theoretical exercise, but as a daily practice in emotional triage. The Roman Stoics would visualize their own deaths not to scare themselves, but to strip away all that was unimportant. Seneca wrote, "Let us prepare our minds as if we had come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day. The one who puts the finishing touches on their life each day is never short of time. This is the preparation." It is living each day with the intention of leaving nothing essential unsaid or undone, so that if death came tonight, you could face it without the bitter regret of a life half-lived. Your focus shifts from superficial concerns, what do I own, what do people think of me, to the only things that can echo beyond your own breath, your legacy of character and the positive impact you had on others. You become emotionally unavailable to the hollow chase of status and approval because you are too busy building something that death cannot touch, a life of virtue, love, and meaningful contribution. Your courage is no longer the absence of fear, but the presence of a greater priority, the determination to make your finite time matter. That legacy you build with courage is constructed in the only workshop you will ever have. Right here, right now, the 17th Stoic truth carves this reality into a daily practice. The present moment is the only place you can ever truly live or act. This is not merely a feel-good piece of mindfulness advice. For the Stoics, it was a tactical, almost brutal recognition of fact. Your power, your agency, your ability to practice virtue exists exclusively in the thin slice of time called now. Everything else is a memory or a speculation, a story you tell yourself that has no substance. Anxiety is a mortgage you take out on a future that may never be built. Regret is a tomb you build for a past you can never change. By training yourself to inhabit the present with full, deliberate focus, you make yourself emotionally unavailable to these twin thieves who would steal your peace and paralyze your power. Think of a soldier in the field. He cannot afford to be emotionally available to the fear of what might happen in the next hour or the guilt over a decision made yesterday. His survival and the success of his mission depends on his total engagement with the present landscape, the immediate threat, the next step. His mind is here. Or picture an athlete at the free throw line with seconds left on the clock. The crowd is screaming, the championship is on the line. If her mind is in the future, worrying about missing and becoming a villain, or in the past, regretting a turnover she made 2 minutes ago, she will almost certainly fail. Her body knows how to shoot. Her success depends on her mind being nowhere else but here, feeling the texture of the ball, seeing the rim, executing the motion she has practiced 10,000 times. The present moment is her only point of contact with reality, and therefore her only point of control. Your life is no different. Your most important battles are not against barbarian hordes, but against distraction. When you are having a conversation with your child, but your mind is replaying an argument from work, you are not here. You are emotionally available to a ghost and unavailable to the living person in front of you. When you are trying to work on a meaningful project but are consumed by anxiety about whether it will succeed, you are not here. You are trying to labor in 2 places at once and your work suffers. The Stoic practice is to continually reel your attention back to the current task. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to strip away the story and see the thing itself. Do the job at hand, not as a burden but as a gift, because it is the only job you can possibly do. Washing a dish, writing an email, listening to a friend in need, each of these is a complete universe when you give it your full attention. This does not mean you do not plan for the future. Stoics were master planners, but they planned in the present as a present action, and then they released the outcome. They did not live in the plan. The emotional unavailability this fosters is profound. You stop paying the interest on future anxieties. You stop renting space in your mind to past regrets. Your energy, which was scattered across time, consolidates into a laser beam of present focus. The work gets done with more ease. The conversations become deeper. The simple acts of life become infused with a quiet dignity because you are actually there to experience them. Your peace is no longer postponed until some future condition is met. It is accessed right now in the deliberate, full engagement with whatever is directly in front of you. This is where life is actually happening, and it is the only place you can ever possibly be. Your commitment to the present action is a form of trust, a bet you place on your own effort. But the wisest gambler never bets the farm on a single roll of the dice. This is the 18th Stoic truth, a subtle mental maneuver that protects your peace like a shock absorber for the soul. It is called the reserve clause, and it is the practice of adding a silent, internal rider to every plan and ambition you have. Fate permitting, you do your part with total commitment, but you hold the final outcome with an open hand, acknowledging that the world may have other plans. This clause makes you beautifully unavailable to the soul-crushing weight of disappointment when things go sideways, because you never assumed sole ownership of the result in the first place. You aimed the arrow with all your skill, but you accepted from the start that the wind might shift. The ancient Stoics would phrase their intentions this way: I will sail to Athens if nothing prevents me. I will complete this project successfully, fate willing. This is not a lack of confidence or a negative affirmation. It is the deepest form of realism and humility. It is the recognition that between your effort and your goal lies a vast landscape of external events, other people's choices, and pure chance, none of which are yours to command. By internalizing the reserve clause, you perform a crucial separation. You decouple your self-worth and your emotional equilibrium from an outcome you only partially control. Your worth is placed entirely in the quality of your effort, in the virtue of your attempt. The result becomes a separate event, something to be accepted with grace, whatever it may be. Imagine you have trained for a marathon for months. You have followed the plan, eaten well, rested adequately. You have done everything within your power. On race day, you wake up with a fever, or perhaps a sudden storm forces the organizers to cancel the event. The runner without a reserve clause has tied their entire identity and emotional state to crossing that finish line. Their disappointment is total, a personal catastrophe. They may feel betrayed by their body or by the universe. They have made themselves emotionally available to a devastation that was always a possibility. The Stoic runner who trained with the same dedication held the intention differently. I will run this marathon, fate permitting. When the fever hits or the storm arrives, they feel the natural disappointment, of course. But it is not a crushing blow to their core. They can think, I did my part honorably. The conditions for success were not granted by fortune today. They can then pivot their energy. Perhaps they rest and recover, or perhaps they run their own symbolic distance when they are well. Their peace is not shattered because their peace was never mortgaged to the external result. It remained secured in the knowledge of their own disciplined preparation. Apply this to a job interview you aced, a business proposal you poured your heart into, or a relationship you tried to mend. You can give it your absolute best, your most eloquent words, your most sincere effort, but the hiring manager's nephew might get the job, the client's budget might get cut. The other person might be too wounded to reconcile. If you operated without the reserve clause, these outcomes feel like personal failures, verdicts on your worth. With the reserve clause, you see them for what they are, the interplay of your excellent effort and a world full of variables you do not govern. You did your part. Fate did not permit the rest. This is not passivity, it is active acceptance. It frees you to try again without the baggage of past bitterness because you never felt betrayed. You simply recognize that the conditions for success were not all aligned. You become emotionally unavailable to the kind of disappointment that paralyzes people for years. You grieve the lost opportunity, then you dust off your virtue and look for the next right action, your inner stability intact, your effort still your own. The reserve clause protects your effort from the chaos of outcome, but where does that effort find its most meaningful direction? The 19th Stoic truth answers with a vision of profound connection, a principle called sympatheia. This is the understanding that you are not a solitary island, but a limb of a single, vast body, the body of humanity. Your well-being is inextricably linked to the health of the whole. When you internalize this truth, you become emotionally unavailable to the corrosive pull of selfishness and the lonely prison of isolation. Your concern naturally expands beyond your own immediate comfort, not as a burdensome duty, but as the rational recognition of a shared fate. The air you breathe, the society you navigate, the peace you seek, all depend on the well-being of others. A diseased foot threatens the entire body. A thriving limb strengthens it. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of this, writing that what brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee. Your personal success, divorced from the common good, is an illusion. This is not a call for sentimental, self-sacrificing martyrdom. That is the emotional trap, the codependent neediness that drains you and creates resentment. Stoic sympatheia is different. It is a rational duty performed from a place of unshakable inner strength. You help others not because you need their gratitude to feel worthy, or because their pain is too uncomfortable for you to bear. You help because it is the right thing for the whole, and you are a part of that whole. Your actions flow from principle, not from a desperate need to fix or be needed. Think of a community facing a natural disaster. The emotionally drained, codependent responder rushes in without regard for their own limits, fueled by the overwhelming pain they witness. They burn out quickly, their help becoming unreliable, and they often need rescuing themselves. The Stoic, guided by sympatheia, assesses the situation with clear eyes. They see the common need. They then ask, from my position of strength, what is the most effective contribution I can make that sustains both the community and myself? Perhaps they organize supplies logically rather than carrying rubble until they collapse. Perhaps they offer their quiet, stable presence to calm others rather than absorbing everyone's panic. They serve the body without crippling their own limb. In your daily life, this might look like mentoring a junior colleague. The codependent mentor does it to feel important, to create dependency, and becomes emotionally entangled in the protege's every stumble. The Stoic mentor does it because strengthening another member of the professional community strengthens the entire ecosystem they both inhabit. They offer guidance with clarity, celebrate the protege's independence, and maintain healthy boundaries. Their help is clean, effective, and free of emotional strings. This perspective makes you unavailable to the petty rivalries and jealousies that thrive on a sense of separation. Why resent a neighbor's beautiful garden when their beauty elevates the entire street, your street? Why hoard knowledge at work when sharing it raises the capability of your team, your team? Your circle of concern widens, but your center of calm remains firm. You act for the common good not with exhausting emotional fervor, but with the steady, reliable commitment of a heart beating for its body. Your fulfillment is found not in taking from the whole, but in being a functional, contributing part of it. This is the ultimate emotional economy, where your greatest personal peace is discovered in the prosperity of the wider world you are forever connected to. That profound connection to the whole reframes a question we often get wrong. What does it mean to truly look out for yourself? The 20th Stoic truth offers a radical answer that ties your personal fortress to the well-being of the world outside its walls. What is good for the hive is good for the bee. Your deepest self-interest is not in hoarding your peace, but in acting with virtue. Justice, courage, wisdom, and temperance are not just nice ideas for a better society. They are the direct personal path to your own unshakable resilience. This truth completes the picture of Stoic emotional unavailability. It is not a selfish withdrawal from the world. It is the commitment to become so internally solid, so governed by principle, that you can engage fully with others without being consumed by their chaos. Your calm becomes a resource you can share, not a treasure you must hide. Think of it this way. A shaky, anxious person trying to help someone else is like a drowning man trying to pull another from the water. They are likely to pull each other under. Their help is frantic, unstable, and dangerous. But a person who has built Stoic resilience, who is emotionally unavailable to panic and drama, is like a strong swimmer on a steady boat. They can extend a firm hand, pull the other to safety, and keep everyone afloat. Their ability to help is direct and effective precisely because they are not available to the same emotional undertow. Acting virtuously is what makes you that strong swimmer. When you choose to be just in a negotiation, you are not being naive or soft. You are building a reputation for integrity that makes future dealings smoother and less stressful for you. You are eliminating the internal turmoil of guilt and the external threat of retaliation. That justice serves the hive, the other party, but it also serves you, the bee, by creating a more predictable and honorable environment. When you choose courage to speak a difficult truth, you are not seeking conflict. You are clearing the air of unspoken tension, which is a weight on your own soul as much as anyone else's. The temporary discomfort of the conversation is far less draining than the long-term anxiety of a hidden problem. Your courage benefits the relationship, the project, the hive, and it benefits you by replacing simmering resentment with clean resolution. Even temperance, the discipline of desire we discussed earlier, aligns perfectly. By wanting less, you free yourself from the exhausting chase of more. You are less envious, less easily manipulated by advertisers, and more content with your own life. This inner contentment makes you a more stable, generous presence in your community. You are not competing with your neighbors. You are able to genuinely celebrate their good fortune. Your self-interest in peace directly fuels your capacity to contribute to communal peace. This reframes every act of so-called self-sacrifice. Helping a friend move when you are tired is not just good for them. It is an exercise in keeping your word, which strengthens your own character. Listening patiently to a frustrated colleague is not just a courtesy to them. It is practice in maintaining your own calm in the face of another storm, which is a muscle you want strong. Each virtuous action is a deposit in your own emotional resilience bank. The Stoic sees no conflict between personal good and common good. To be a flourishing bee, you need a healthy hive. And to have a healthy hive, each bee must act in ways that ensure its own strength and the colony's survival. Your emotional unavailability to drama is what allows you to be fully, reliably available for true duty and connection. You stop seeing virtue as a cost and start seeing it as the ultimate personal investment. Your inner citadel is not an isolated castle. It is the well-fortified town hall from which you can govern your actions in the world, ensuring that what you build outside never comes at the expense of the peace within. That inner citadel, the town hall of your soul, needs its quiet hours. The 21st Stoic truth is the daily practice that maintains its walls and polishes its floors. Withdraw into yourself. This is not an escape from life, but a deeper dive into its source. To be selectively unavailable to the noise of the world, you must first become deeply, consistently available to the quiet voice within. The Stoics called this practice anachoresis, the retreat into the self, and they treated it as a non-negotiable daily ritual. It is the conscious act of turning off the screens, stepping away from the conversations, and sitting alone with your own thoughts. In that solitude, you conduct the most important meeting of your day, a review with your only permanent companion, your own conscience. The most famous version of this is the evening review, a practice Seneca and Marcus Aurelius both championed. Before sleep, you revisit the day not with guilt or pride, but with the calm eye of a scientist observing an experiment. You ask yourself three simple, powerful questions. What did I do well today? Where did my actions align with virtue? Where did I fall short? Where did fear, anger, or laziness steer me off course? And finally, what will I do differently tomorrow? This is not a session of brutal self-criticism. It is a gentle, firm audit of your progress. Imagine your day held a difficult conversation where you spoke honestly but kindly. You note that as a point of courage and justice aligned. Perhaps later you lost your temper in a traffic jam, snapping at someone in your car. You note that as a moment where externals governed your reaction. You do not whip yourself for it. You simply acknowledge the misstep, understand its trigger, and resolve to create more space between stimulus and response next time. The power of this practice is cumulative. It builds a profound self-awareness that makes you emotionally independent. When you are the one who regularly examines your own motives and actions, you become far less hungry for or threatened by the examinations of others. You no longer need someone else to tell you did a good job because you have already assessed your own effort with clear eyes. You are not devastated by criticism because you have already identified your own flaws in the quiet of your own mind, often more thoroughly than any critic could. This daily withdrawal is where you reclaim your narrative from the chaos of the day. The world will constantly tell you who you are, what you should want, how you should feel. In solitude, you listen for your own answer. You separate the person you presented to the world from the person you know yourself to be, and you work to bring them closer together. This is how you build emotional unavailability to external drama, because you are too invested in your own internal storyline, the project of becoming a better human. It is how a leader can withstand the fickle opinions of the crowd, how an artist can persist through rejection, how anyone can find a center that does not hold them. Your daily retreat is the forge where your character is tempered, not by the fires of external conflict, but by the steady, focused heat of your own honest attention. Your daily retreat builds the inner fire, but what do you do when life throws cold water on it directly? This is the 22nd Stoic truth, a principle of radical transformation. Use your misfortunes as fuel for your philosophy. Every hardship, every betrayal, every loss you encounter is not an interruption of your Stoic practice, it is the raw material for it. This truth makes you emotionally unavailable to prolonged suffering and the seductive pull of victimhood, because you become an alchemist of experience, turning the leaden weight of painful events into the golden wisdom of resilience. The Stoic does not ask the hollow, draining question, "Why me?" They ask the active, empowering one, "What can this teach me?" Your philosophy is not a set of ideas you read about in calm moments. It is the toolkit you prove in the storm. It is only when the ship is taking on water that you discover if you built it correctly. Each misfortune presents a specific curriculum. A financial setback is a masterclass in distinguishing needs from wants, in practicing the voluntary discomfort we discussed earlier. It forces you to find creativity and resourcefulness you never knew you possessed. The pain of that forced simplicity becomes the fuel for a more intentional, less anxious relationship with money. A betrayal by a trusted friend is a brutal but precise lesson in the dichotomy of control and in assuming ignorance over malice. It teaches you where you had mistakenly placed your sense of security in another person's character, and it refines your understanding of trust, making it more discerning and less naive. The grief of that betrayal becomes the fuel for stronger, more authentic boundaries and a deeper loyalty to your own values. Even physical illness or pain can become fuel. It is a relentless tutor in the present moment, stripping away your plans for the future and your regrets of the past, forcing you to inhabit the now with stark clarity. It teaches patience. It teaches the profound difference between the experiencing self and the observing self, and it can ignite a fierce gratitude for health when it returns. The key is in the reframing. You are not passively enduring misfortune. You are actively mining it. You are on a scavenger hunt for lessons, and the universe has just handed you a difficult clue. Think of a potter at the wheel. The clay is inert, often messy and uncooperative. In the hands of an amateur, it collapses into a useless lump, a source of frustration. In the hands of a master, that same resistant clay is the essential substance for creating something beautiful and strong. The clay did not change, the skill and intention of the potter did. Your misfortunes are that clay. Victimhood is the amateur's collapse. Stoic philosophy is the master's hands, shaping the difficult material into a vessel that can hold meaning. This is how you build emotional unavailability to suffering. You stop seeing pain as something that happens to you, and you start seeing it as something you work with. You engage with it, you question it, you extract its hidden curriculum. The energy that most people spend on lamenting their fate, you redirect into studying it. This does not mean the pain disappears. A broken bone still hurts, a heart still aches, but alongside that hurt grows a parallel stream of understanding, a narrative of growth that eventually overshadows the narrative of pure loss. You are no longer just a patient in the hospital of life. You are also the doctor taking notes, determined to learn everything this illness can teach you about the human body and spirit. Your resilience is no longer a hope. It is a documented fact, written in the ledger of every hardship you have metabolized into wisdom. When you know you can use anything, you stop fearing everything. That alchemical process of turning misfortune into fuel requires a special kind of container, one that can hold both nothing and everything without cracking. The 23rd Stoic truth describes the ideal form of that container, the sage who is content with little but prepared for much. This is the portrait of ultimate emotional resilience, a state where your inner peace is so robust that it remains untouched whether you dine on fine food or coarse bread, whether you sleep in a palace or on the hard ground. To embody this is to become beautifully unavailable to two of society's most powerful emotional levers, the gnawing fear of not having enough and the hollow, frantic chase for always having more. Your sense of sufficiency is generated internally by your virtue and your rational mind, not by the number of digits in your bank account. Think of a master sailor. Her skill and knowledge are her true wealth. She can navigate her small, sturdy boat through a calm cove with perfect contentment, enjoying the simplicity of sun and sea. But if a storm arises, or if she is suddenly given command of a massive ship, her capability does not falter. She is prepared for the challenge. Her happiness was never in the size of the vessel, but in her competence and her connection to the ocean itself. The boat is a preferred indifferent, the skill is the virtue. This is the Stoic ideal. Contentment with little proves your freedom from enslavement to externals. It is the voluntary discomfort we discussed, the practiced ability to find joy and peace in simple, readily available things, a good conversation, a walk in nature, a moment of quiet reflection. This is not a life of forced austerity, but of chosen simplicity that guarantees your happiness can never be taken from you by a market crash or a lost job. You have already proven to yourself that you can be okay with less, but the second half is equally crucial, prepared for much. This is not about secretly craving abundance. It is about the cultivated capacity to handle good fortune with grace and responsibility without losing your center. It is the understanding that wealth, influence, or luxury are simply different kinds of weather for your inner citadel. They are tests, not rewards. Can you inherit a large sum of money without it distorting your values or making you paranoid? Can you receive great praise without it inflating your ego and making you brittle? Can you experience peak moments of pleasure without becoming addicted to them and despising the ordinary days that follow? Being prepared for much means you have the character to steward abundance without becoming its servant. Your emotional equilibrium is not purchased by your possessions, so it cannot be repossessed. This truth decouples your self-worth from your net worth. You are not a better person when your investments soar, nor a worse one when they tumble. You are the same person, practicing the same virtues, navigating different external conditions. This makes you unavailable to the roller coaster of consumer emotion, the high of a new purchase followed by the inevitable craving for the next one. It also makes you unavailable to the anxiety of keeping up appearances, of maintaining a lifestyle that is a hair's breadth from financial ruin. Your happiness is anchored in something no one can tax, repossess, or inflate away. Your own reasoned choice to live with integrity and appreciation, regardless of what you own. You become like a tree with deep roots, enjoying the sunshine when it comes, enduring the drought when it must, but always drawing sustenance from a source far beneath the surface, untouched by the changing seasons above. Deep roots allow a tree to stand without constantly announcing its strength. There is a profound silence that surrounds genuine resilience, a quiet so potent it becomes its own statement. This brings us to the 24th Stoic truth, a directive that cuts through the noise of performative wisdom. Do not explain your philosophy, embody it. The Stoic teacher Epictetus delivered this command with characteristic bluntness, and it strikes at the heart of a modern temptation. We live in an age of explanation where we feel compelled to announce our diets, our mindfulness apps, our political beliefs, and yes, our philosophical leanings. There is a hidden, fragile need in this compulsion, a desire for external validation, for someone to see our intellectual banner and salute it. True emotional unavailability, however, means becoming indifferent to that salute. Your calm is not a theory to be debated, it is a lived reality to be demonstrated. Arguing about Stoicism or any life philosophy is often a sign that you are still emotionally available to something you claim to have mastered, the opinion of others. It reveals a need to be seen as wise rather than a commitment to simply be wise. The person who has genuinely internalized these principles does not post lengthy diatribes online about the dichotomy of control when someone cuts them off in traffic. They simply take a breath, release their grip on the steering wheel, and let the moment pass. Their philosophy is evident in the space between the provocation and their reaction, a space so quiet you could almost hear the principles at work. This embodiment makes you beautifully unavailable to intellectual posturing and the exhausting game of comparative enlightenment. Consider two people facing the same corporate setback. One immediately launches into a lecture about amor fati and the obstacle being the way, explaining to anyone who will listen how this is just fuel for growth. Their words are correct, but their energy is frantic, seeking agreement and admiration for their perspective. The other person says very little. They acknowledge the setback, feel the disappointment, and are then observed quietly analyzing the new landscape, asking pragmatic questions, and redirecting their team's energy toward a solution. Their philosophy is in their posture, their focus, their next action. Which person's calm do you trust more? The one talking about the fortress or the one simply living safely within its walls? Embodying your philosophy means your primary audience is yourself. Your nightly review is where you explain your actions to your own conscience, not to a social media feed. The validation you seek comes from the alignment between your principles and your deeds, a private satisfaction that renders public approval unnecessary. This is not about secrecy or never sharing ideas that could help others. It is about motivation, sharing from a place of lived experience because a specific tool worked is powerful. Preaching from a place of wanting to be seen as a philosopher is a subtle form of neediness. When your life becomes the argument, you are freed from having to make one. Your emotional resilience speaks in a language deeper than words through a steady gaze, a measured response, a consistent return to what is within your control. People may not know you are practicing Stoicism, but they will know you are someone who cannot be easily rattled, who does not traffic in gossip, who meets difficulty with a problem-solving focus. They will see the citadel long before you ever describe its blueprints. In this quiet embodiment, you achieve the ultimate form of influence, not by convincing minds, but by demonstrating a state of being so compelling that others are drawn to discover its source for themselves. Your philosophy ceases to be a topic of conversation and becomes the very air you breathe, invisible, essential, and the foundation of an unshakable peace that requires no explanation at all. That quiet embodiment of philosophy is not a robotic performance. It is the ultimate expression of a human heart trained to feel with profound clarity. We have journeyed through 24 truths that build resilience, but we must now confront the final, and perhaps most important, one. The goal is not to feel nothing, but to feel rightly. This directly addresses the biggest misconception about Stoicism, the idea that it teaches emotional numbness or cold suppression. Nothing could be further from the truth. Stoic emotional unavailability is not a shutdown, it is an upgrade. It is the mastery of what the ancient Stoics called propatheiai, the first movements of passion. These are the initial, automatic flashes of feeling that strike before your rational mind can engage. The flinch of fear when you hear a loud noise, the surge of heat when you hear an insult. The lump in your throat at sad news. The Stoics never claim to eliminate these. They are human, biological, and uncontrollable. What they sought to master was the second movement, the story you tell yourself about that feeling that either fans it into a destructive inferno or allows it to pass like a wave. The goal is to feel joy, grief, and anger appropriately, proportionally, and briefly, and then to return to a state of rational calm. This is emotional sovereignty. Imagine you receive a devastating piece of personal news. The propatheia, the first movement, is a physical shock, a hollow feeling in your stomach, tears welling up. This is not a failure of Stoicism, it is your humanity. The Stoic practice happens in the next breath. The untrained, emotionally available mind might immediately spiral. This is the worst thing that has ever happened. My life is over. I will never recover. It attaches a catastrophic narrative to the raw feeling, amplifying the grief into a paralyzing despair that can last for years. The Stoic, feeling that same initial hollow shock, acknowledges it without the story. This is painful. This is a real loss. They allow themselves to feel the sadness, even to cry. But they consciously refuse the catastrophic narrative. They understand the feeling is appropriate, but they guard against letting it become disproportionate and permanent. They might think this is a deep wound and it will hurt for a time. My duty now is to tend to it with care, to reach out for support and to gradually rebuild. The feeling is fully felt, but it is not allowed to become the sole ruler of the inner citadel. It is a respected visitor, not a permanent dictator. The same applies to anger. Someone treats you unfairly. The first movement is that flash of heat, the clenched jaw. That is the propathia, and it is automatic. The sovereign response is to pause right there. To feel the heat, but before you speak or act, to ask the Stoic questions: is this within my control? What is the just and proportionate response here? The feeling of anger is a signal, like a warning light on a car's dashboard. It tells you something is wrong. The emotionally reactive person smashes the dashboard. The emotionally sovereign person checks the engine. They might use the energy of that initial anger to fuel a calm, firm boundary, or to articulate a wrong that needs righting. But the anger itself is a tool, not the foreman. It is felt, used for its informational value, and then released so clearer judgment can take the lead. This is what it means to feel rightly. Joy is not suppressed either, but it is felt without clinging. You savor a beautiful moment with a loved one, fully present in the gratitude of it, without immediately projecting a fear of its loss into the future. You feel the joy, and you let it be complete in itself. This entire journey through 25 truths has been about building the inner architecture for this sovereignty. The dichotomy of control gives you the map. The view from above provides the perspective. Guarding your inner citadel creates the safe space. All of it culminates in this: the ability to experience the full, rich, sometimes painful spectrum of human emotion without being enslaved by any single part of it. You are not made of stone. You are made of something far more resilient, a conscious awareness that can hold feeling without drowning in it. You become the calm in the center of your own storm, feeling the rain, acknowledging the wind, but rooted so deeply that you know with unshakable certainty that you will still be standing when the skies clear. This is the ultimate emotional unavailability, a freedom so complete that you can finally afford to feel everything, because nothing can ever truly break you again. This journey through 25 truths is not a checklist to be completed, but a blueprint for an unshakable inner citadel. Each principle, from the foundational dichotomy of control to the profound practice of feeling rightly, interlocks with the others, forming a resilient framework for a life of purpose and peace. What we have called emotional unavailability is revealed not as a cold withdrawal, but as the ultimate superpower of focus. It is the trained ability to direct your finite emotional energy away from the chaotic noise of what you cannot control, and toward the meaningful work of building what you can: your character, your actions, your legacy. This is the Stoic art of living, a philosophy of empowered calm in a world designed for reactive distress. The goal is not to escape being human, but to become the most sovereign, resilient, and compassionate version of a human possible. You are not shutting down your heart. You are finally putting it in charge, protected by walls of wisdom, so it can beat steadily through any storm. This transformation begins not with mastering all 25 truths at once, but with a single, deliberate choice. In the coming week, do not try to rebuild your entire mind. Choose just one truth from this list, the one that whispered to you most clearly. Perhaps it is the practice of guarding your inner citadel, of saying no to one draining conversation. Maybe it is the view from above, taking 5 minutes to see your biggest worry against the backdrop of the cosmos. It could be as simple as adding the reserve clause, fate permitting, to your plans for the weekend. Take that one truth and live with it for 7 days. Observe how it changes your reactions, conserves your energy, and creates small pockets of unexpected calm. True strength is built in these daily, quiet repetitions. Your practice, your progress is what matters. We would love to hear which truth resonated with you and became your focus. Share your choice in the comments below, a simple act that can inspire others on the same path. If you found this map to inner peace valuable, consider subscribing. Together, we can continue exploring how to build a life of Stoic resilience, one purposeful thought, one virtuous action at a time. The fortress awaits its architect. The tools are in your hands. Begin building.